Torch relay for the National Games kicks off in Hong Kong and 3 neighboring cities. One of the torchbearers was a robot in Shenzhen. And the U.S. releases details about trade deal made between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump in South Korea. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. The torch relay for the 15th National Games commenced this morning. It was held simultaneously in 4 cities: Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangzhou. The launch ceremony began in Shenzhen at 9 a.m., marking the first time that a humanoid robot has been used as a torchbearer. In Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Macau, the torch relay started at 9:30 a.m. Each city has 50 torchbearers. Here's a look at the torch relay in Hong Kong by Jackie Lin.
The ceremony kicking off the National Games Torch Relay's Hong Kong section was held outside the government headquarters in Admiralty. The ceremonial source flame was brought up to the stage before Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law lit the pot. Acting Chief Executive Eric Chan ignited the torch and handed the first baton to the first torchbearer, table tennis player Wang Chunting. Announcing the start of the 10-kilometer torch relay.
I think very happy and excited, and the first one is, for me, is so special.
Nearly half of the 50 torchbearers in Hong Kong come from the sports sector. They include the second torchbearer, Sun Yiwen, an épée fencer from the national team, and Olympic swimmer Stephanie Au.
National Games is hosting in Hong Kong. We are part of the National Games, so first time being a torchbearer in Hong Kong really means a lot.
The torch was carried along the Central and Western District waterfront promenade to the Golden Bohemia Square. This section encompasses representatives from the political and business community, including Executive Council member and Jockey Club Chairman Martin Liao, Henderson Land Chairman Martin Lee Ka-shing, Timothy Falk, President of Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China, and Sun Hung Kai Properties Executive Director Adam Kwok. The torch then sailed across Victoria Harbour aboard Star Ferry, carried by head coach of Hong Kong's table tennis team Li Ching, watched on by citizens and tourists. The Hong Kong Jockey Club took on the torch as a group, which included Hong Kong jockey Vincent Ho. The torch then boarded the open top bus with torchbearers Managing Director of Citybus William Chung and Chairman of Sino Group Daryl Ng Kwong, before being taken into the Kai Tak Sports Park and handed over to CLP Executive Director Chiang Tong Keung. A total of 11 torchbearers took part in the final leg of the Hong Kong relay. The last torchbearer was Hong Kong's fencing athlete Kaylin Xie, who lit the cauldron.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And again, fire symbolizes hope and that fighting spirit, the passion that you have.
Finally, the fire guard collected the source flame. Acting Chief Executive Eric Chan knows that sailing athlete Nicholas Halliday has already struck the first gold for Team Hong Kong China in the National Games, which marked an exhilarating start for the city. Weighing 1.6 kilograms, this torch features a streamlined metal frame and a peony at its base, symbolizing the 3 regions' unity and prosperity. Jacqueline, TVB News.
As part of the nation's drive to embrace technology, the National Games torch relay stretch from Shenzhen to Guangzhou incorporated numerous tech elements, including a robot carrying the torch. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Kicking off at the Lianhuashan Park in Shenzhen, Guangdong Party Secretary Huang Kunming was the National Games torch relay's first torchbearer. And soon, the torch was passed to a robotic runner. The 5G advanced humanoid Quafu robot is the first of its kind to perform designated athletic feats with human flexibility and is capable of adapting to tough terrain. But it's not only humanoid robots joining the event today. Torchbearers were also greeted by robotic dogs, bringing with them gifts such as the National Games mascot. Today's event also coincides with the 45th anniversary of the establishment of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, with the city's section of the relay stretching for 45 kilometers, 40 of which were conducted via helicopter. This Shenzhen resident said the event was especially meaningful to her son, allowing him to truly grasp the spirit of the national games. Reaching its next stop at the Guangzhou Museum, the first torchbearer of the provincial capital was Olympic diving champion Yang Jinghui. The event also featured another technologically advanced torchbearer, a driverless vehicle. Next destination, Macau. This leg of the relay began with Chief Executive Sam Ho-fai lighting the torch, before setting off from the enclave's government headquarters. The total distance of this stretch being 2.6 kilometers. Macau's torchbearers included CPPCC Standing Committee member Pansy Ho and her sister Daisy Ho. The momentous journey, which lasted for a total of 2 hours, concluded at Macau's most iconic landmark, the ruins of St. Paul's. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
A flame-gathering ceremony collecting the flame from the 4 cities was held in Guangzhou after the torch relay. 4 representatives, including Young Tak-kung, the head of Hong Kong's National Games Coordination Office, returned the flame at the Guangdong Olympic Sports Center to conduct a torch-lighting ceremony to ignite the cauldron. The flame was then introduced into the torch lamp to connect the main relay torch and the main torch for the lighting ceremony at the opening ceremony of the 15th National Games on November 9. The National Games torch relay attracted local and overseas spectators to watch at locations across Hong Kong. Mimo Singai reports.
The moment when the torch arrived at Tsim Sha Tsui, one of the 5 sections of the torch relay. Apart from cheering, many spectators captured the scene with their phones. Some children waved flags as they chanted slogans to show their support. A mother who brought her 2 children to watch the relay saw the event as an opportunity to enhance their understanding of national education and sportsmanship. This man said it was exciting to witness the torch and the torchbearer in real life and not just on TV. A few tourists were curious about the event.
I saw the information on this Instagram. I can feel the atmosphere. Yeah, I love it.
Indoor viewing of the event was another option. A shopping mall in Kunton live-streamed the relay on a big screen. Several visitors stopped by to watch.
Here at the mall, an artist is modeling balloons in shapes related to the national games, such as this bow and arrow. Members 9, TVB News.
The government's plan to build a dedicated fencing sports center is moving forward, with Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, Rosanna Law, saying in a TVB News program that the government is conducting preliminary research on a site in the northern metropolis. Jackie Lin with more.
Hong Kong's fencing team, which has won 3 Olympic gold medals among other honors, is gearing up for the National Games. Speaking on the TVB program, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law expressed confidence that solid results by various Hong Kong teams at the Games would draw greater public interest in sports. The proposal to build a fencing training and competition venue was announced 2 years ago in the policy address, but not a lot of progress has been seen.
Law
says the government is conducting preliminary research on new fencing venue located in the northern metropolis, where much of Hong Kong's future land supply for residential, commercial, IT and cultural sports tourism purposes will be located. Law said the Kai Tak Sports Park facility will be used for fencing training over the short term. Same for the Hong Kong Sports Institute, with renovation work underway to convert half to a full floor for fencing. Separately, for the Kai Tak Sports Park, which has been operational for just over 6 months, Law says bookings for the main stadium next year are already very full. She says authorities are already reviewing booking applications for 2027. On the 15th National Games, Law says Hong Kong has completed most of the preparation work. Around 30% of the 400,000 tickets for the 8 events hosted in Hong Kong have been sold. She expects around 100,000 travelers will visit Hong Kong for the Games. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
In other news, the White House has released details of the deal coming out of the meeting between President Xi Jinping and Donald Trump in South Korea. Beijing is to pause sweeping export controls on rare earth announced last month and take measures to resume shipments from chip maker Nexperia. Meanwhile, Washington will not implement the 100% additional tariffs on Chinese imports. Danny Zhou has the report.
The White House has announced more specifics of the tariff and trade deal struck between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in the South Korean city of Busan earlier this week. Under the agreement, the Chinese authorities are expected to issue licenses for materials such as rare earths and graphites, effectively cancelling the export curbs rolled out this April and in October 2022. The White House declared that Beijing will take measures to ensure the Chinese facilities of Nexperia resume shipments, while pausing anti-monopoly and anti-dumping probe into American semiconductor supply chains. Other key details of the thaw include its suspension of the retaliatory tariffs on U.S. chickens and soybeans since March. Beijing will purchase at least 1,200 tons of American soybeans in November and December. It will resume buying sorghums and lumbers from the U.S. as well. In addition, the White House says China will work to stop the flow of fentanyl into the U.S., including a halt of its export of certain chemicals. Effective November the 11th, Washington will reduce fentanyl-related levies from 20% to 10%, while suspending the port fees for China-linked vessels for 1 year. It will maintain its suspension of the so-called reciprocal tariffs until November the 10th, 2026, and halt plans to implement the 100% extra levies. The Chinese government released the consensus reached by the economic and trade teams from both sides on Thursday. A spokesman for the Ministry of Commerce confirmed they have agreed to continue extending certain tariff exclusion measures. China is slated to suspend relevant export restrictions on rare earths for another year. The US made positive commitments in areas of investment, and China will probably resolve TikTok-related issues with the US side. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Still ahead, Chief Executive John Lee returns to Hong Kong after APEC meeting in South Korea. 10 people injured in a stabbing incident on a train to London. And a new museum in Egypt opens to great fanfare. Welcome back. Chief Executive John Lee has returned to Hong Kong from his APEC trip in Gyeongju, South Korea this afternoon. The chief executive said the APEC meeting has left an imprint on connecting economies. On social media, Lee said he visited the Gyeongju Jungang market to experience the local atmosphere. He said Hong Kong's past year was breaking through the cocoon and transforming into a butterfly. As he mentioned, the APEC emblem was a flying butterfly. Lee added that he looks forward to the APEC meeting in Shenzhen next year. Secretary for Housing Winnie Ho said she will call upon public housing tenants to take part in the upcoming Legislative Council election. In a video uploaded on her social media, Ho said both the mascots for the Housing Bureau and the upcoming election will visit the city's public housing estates to encourage participation in the December 7th elections. She said the aim is to foster happiness and well-being among the community by getting residents to vote for their favorite candidates. In the UK, 2 people are fighting life-threatening injuries after a stabbing rampage on a train heading to London. At least 9 people were hospitalized. David Garrett reports.
The 1825 Doncaster to London King's Cross train that had been due to arrive in the capital hours ago remains in Huntingdon, stopped in its tracks shortly after a frightening knife attack unfolded on board. When heading south and near the Market Town station a few miles from Cambridge, police received reports of a stabbing attack as the passenger service left Peterborough, just over 100 kilometres north of London. Investigations continue with around half of those hospitalised discharged.
Where armed police officers from Cambridgeshire Police boarded the train and arrested 2 people. Within 8 minutes of the 999 call being made, 2 men were brought into police custody. where they remain this morning. I can tell you that these are the first male, a 32-year-old male, a black British national, and a 35-year-old man, a British national of Caribbean descent.
Startled travellers contacted police immediately. Armed officers arrived at Huntingdon Station at around 7:40 p.m.
What happened was I was in Coach G and there was quite a few people coming through Coach G, and one of the people that were coming through, I had my headphones on, then heard them say, they've got a knife, I've been stabbed. And then when looking up, so they were making their way through the carriage to get away from the incident, from the suspects. They were extremely bloodied. That person ended up, when we pulled in, they were basically on the floor. We couldn't progress further down the train away from the suspect because that person ended up collapsing on the floor.
Dozens of emergency service vehicles responded, crowding the concourse of Huntingdon Station as injured victims were helped with the attack contained. Other shocked passengers were evacuated on buses. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's thoughts are with all those affected in the appalling incident. Police say plateau, the national code word used when responding to what could be a terror attack, was initiated but later rescinded with no motive disclosed. David Garrett, TVB News.
An extravagant ceremony was held to mark the inauguration of the long-delayed Grand Egyptian Museum. Daniel Rell tells us more.
2 decades in the making, the opening ceremony of the Grand Egyptian Museum was a spectacular occasion. As an orchestra played fanfares, lines of actors dressed in ancient Egyptian garb arrayed around the museum, the pyramids and the Sphinx. Hundreds of drones created a light show in the sky, depicting well-known Egyptian gods like Isis and Osiris and the pyramids. Speaking at the opening ceremony, which was attended by a number of European and Arab royals, as well as other presidents and prime ministers, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi called on attendees to make this museum a platform for dialogue, a destination of knowledge, a forum for humanity, and a beacon for all who love life and believe in the value of humankind. The museum is one of several mega-projects championed by el-Sisi since he took office in 2014. Since then, the Egyptian government has made huge investments in infrastructure. This with the aim of reviving a stagnating economy weakened by the unrest following the 2011 Arab Spring uprising. The museum replaces the Egyptian Museum, housed in a building more than a century old in downtown Cairo. The museum, which was renowned for its elegant neoclassical style, had become antiquated and was often compared to a warehouse overpacked with artifacts with little explanation. Touted as the world's biggest museum dedicated to a single ancient civilization, the new building in contemporary style is a stark contrast. Its large open halls give space for some 50,000 artifacts on display, along with virtual reality exhibits. It displays the entire collection of treasures from the tomb of the famed King Tutankhamun for the first time since its discovery in 1922. The new museum is expected to attract 5 million visitors annually. Daniel, TV News.
In recent years, Hong Kong has experienced multiple tragic cases involving caregivers. A recent survey found that many caregivers feel unprepared to handle the needs of terminally ill patients or the loved ones of the deceased, with experts recommending more life and death education. Jackie Lin reports.
Commissioned by the Hong Kong Council of Social Service, Social Policy Research Limited polled more than 300 caregivers over the phone in June. The respondents took care of seniors aged 65 or above, or those with chronic diseases, physical disabilities, or mental health conditions. Nearly 1/3 of them work full-time, and 60% of them are considered high-burden caregivers, spending an average of 42 hours per week caring for patients. More than 40% reported fatigue, long-term insomnia, or other health issues. The survey is also the first in Hong Kong to examine caregivers' competence on end-of-life care, funeral arrangements, and community support. The average result is an unsatisfactory 4.97 out of 10 for such competence.
The
Hong Kong Council of Social Service says doctors may ask caregivers to decide whether to continue treatment or terminate their life support, citing the patient's condition and potential suffering. Caregivers often feel stressed over the decision, with some worrying that their loved ones did not specify funeral arrangements, such as sea burial or cremation. Apart from urging the government to promote elder care tech to improve basic home care capabilities, the group also calls out more end-of-life education, an issue that was highlighted as a result of the popular and critically acclaimed movie The Last Dance, so as to ensure fewer regrets in the patient's final days. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.